Twilight Syndrome. It's an incredibly intriguing series of games that stars young high schoolers as they investigate rumors of paranormal phenomenon like young people do in real life, and the rumors are often based on real life urban legends. And to make things really interesting, the cases that these young people investigate often somehow make them realize things about themselves or involve themselves in some kind of way. And these games are incredibly well told stories that, unlike a lot of other horror games, really nail tension. These games can build up to a confrontation like it's nobody's business, to the point that there's rarely, if ever, any actual supernatural phenomenon appearing on screen. But you feel it, you are right there with the people investigating. And as they get more and more tense, so do you. And that's an incredible feat for games that are just glorified walking simulators. And just experiencing them is an event, and an incredibly immersive one. I've previously explained the plot of the first game, and if you haven't watched that yet, please go do that, as the sequel picks up seconds after the ending of the first game. But if you have watched that first series, then please sit back and relax, and let me, for probably the first time in English, take you on a journey through Twilight Syndrome Kyuumei-Hen, aka Investigation. We open up to a fortune teller working her stand on the street, and then someone, who we may or may not know, walks by and chats her up. The fortune teller begins laying out tarot cards and says that they are quite different from regular tarots and are quite accurate in their prediction. The first card is picked, the Great Wave, a sign of an ongoing great change. The Forest card is picked next, and it says that the person it is drawn for is deeply lost in an endless labyrinth looking for answers. The third card represents separation, and that the mystery person isn't completely prepared to accept the separation. The fourth card represents confusion and confused emotions. The fifth card, deceased. They've lost someone recently or have left something of themselves in the world of the dead. The final card is the maiden. Is there a girl in her life, or is the card referring to herself? The fortune teller tells her to go close her eyes and sense things, and the person sees a girl with bobbed hair in her mind's eye, and then the fortune teller says that she'll meet that girl again and that it will impact her fate. Her and only her can decide what direction she is gonna go. As the person opens their eyes, the fortune teller is gone. Mysteriously enough, Mika then shows up at school and asks the others to go investigate the whereabouts of a girl with bobbed hair, and then gets mad at Yukari for having forgotten that case. And then she goes on to remind them all of the first rumor they investigated, the girl in the bathroom. She says they summoned her wrong, and that she thought they wanted to play with her, and if they do it right, she can instead grant them a wish. The others are reluctant, but Mika of course manages to convince them in the end, like she always does. Yukari needs to get the keys to the, yeah, that might be awkward, so they're gonna have to sneak in instead. They start making their way to the art room on the second floor, because the window in there faces northeast, which is the direction known as the Demon's Gate. Mika doesn't exactly have the ritual ready, but instead the lyrics of a song where the words to summon the girl with the bobbed hair are hidden. She starts drawing a circle on the floor to start the summoning ritual, and they all start chanting the lyrics of the song, hoping that it will summon the spirit. As the chant concludes, nothing happens, but apparently it's not supposed to happen here. The chant is just supposed to summon her, but she will appear in the bathroom where they first met her. As they walk towards their destination, they see a light coming from where they are heading, and Yukari and Chisato wants to go home, but Mika, she's having none of it. As I alluded to earlier, because they don't have the keys to the school, because Yukari is not, doing inappropriate things with an adult human being, they have to take a little detour. Mika remembers that the lock on the 4th floor is broken, so they start making their way up there. But unfortunately the lock is not broken and the door is firmly locked. As they start to walk away, they hear a noise, and when they turn around there is someone there, and then she disappears, and then the door that was just locked, it opens, so maybe it was broken. As they enter, they notice that they are not on the 4th floor of the building but the 1st floor. And then they start to hear a noise. Understandably freaked out, but in too deep to go home, the trio starts to ascend the stairs. On the 3rd floor, Chisato begins to sense something and warns everyone to be careful. They enter a room where a sound is coming from, and inside there's a big ball of pulsating light, and Chisato says that it's a bad light and that it's not connected to the girl with the bobbed hair. Yukari asks Chisato what she means, and Chisato wants her not to get closer or she will get sucked in, but it seems that it's too late and the room gets filled with light and the sound that the ball is emitting becomes more and more intense, but the girl manages to break away from its hole and run back into the hallway. They begin to question if they summoned the right spirit, and Mika insists they followed the ritual correctly, and then they hear that chant or rhyme that they were saying earlier somewhere in the distance, coming from what seems like a little girl, so they must have done something right. But it does seem that they unleashed more than just her, and they contemplate asking someone for help. Mika's pager goes off and it's her old friend, the old man Aramata. He is probably their best bet, so they begin making their way down to the 1st floor to find a phone. They head through a door that should lead them to a connecting passage like the other one they used to get in, but through the door is a rundown classroom that none of them recognize. Apparently it might be the classroom where the desks are kept from the 7 Mysteries rumor about that student that fell down the stairs and broke her neck. They try cutting through the pool to get to another exit, but a ghost pool swimmer appears and they start to run and notice that the water in the pool is strangely bright, and when they look down at it, it's just full of dead swimmers. The trio runs off but gets separated, and Yukari is suddenly on her own. She begins searching for the others but also a way out, and as she makes her way through a classroom, she sees a translucent girl crying, and she calls out to her and asks what she's doing. She replies that this is where they always met, and that they thought they would always be together, and that she didn't know it would end in such a one-sided way. And then she repeats the last thing she thought of in life. If I died, would he be sad? And then I cut my wrists. Yukari thinks at first that it might be MF, but realizes that she didn't cut her wrist but hung herself, and then Yukari realizes that it's herself from some fucked up future. The screen fades to black and Chisato and Mika are here, and Yukari is on the ground being waken up by them. Yukari thinks that it was a dream, but over where the ghost was, the keys to the school that she usually uses are on the ground, and they seem to be the very same one that she always uses. They use the key to open a locked door and enter a connecting corridor, but as they make their way through, a whistle is heard from behind them, and when they turn around there is a ghost girl. They run off and stop to collect their thoughts, and they realize that this spell messed up something and opened a portal, and it didn't just summon Hanako-san, it opened a door to a realm, and now all kinds of spirits are pouring into their world. They have to find a phone and ask Aramata for advice, and as they make their way in the direction of the phone, the whole school starts to rumble and a noise is heard, and then a bright light flashes, and then nothing. They look through a window and a ghost just slams up against it, forcing them to run off once again. They encounter a ghost who's begging them to let them go back, and he's not referring to life, he wants to go back to the world of the dead, and they suspect that they might all want that to some degree, and that they are all acting out because of frustration, not because of anger. Yukari wants to leave, but Chisato and Mika convinces her that they have to stay, and they have to call Aramata and ask for help. Aramata says that what they did was really bad, and as Mika recites the chant, Aramata reveals that it's not the song to bring out the girl so that she can grant wishes, but an incantation that releases the dead from the world of the living, like the girls already suspected. He clarifies that it didn't just open a portal, it opened a portal that only attracts vengeful spirits that want to harm the living because the living have the one thing they don't: life. To reverse it, they need to find the inverse of the place where they first did the summon spell and do everything opposite. Stand with their backs turned to each other and reverse the incantation to seal the portal. Mika works with Aramata to mix up the lyrics and make for the sealing incantation, but the phone signal cuts out before they're completely done, so they have to figure out the final part by themselves and find the place where to do it. They realize that the most spirits they have encountered tonight have hung around exit signs or exits in the school, so they figure that the entrance to the school could be a good location to do the inverse of the summoning spell and be the reverse of the art room, which is a room that creates things. Unlike the entrance, which is a room where student souls are sucked out when they enter, or something like that. They make their way there without incident and perform the ritual, and the spirits all assume spectral form and fly into the air, lighting up rooms here and there around the school, and as they do, the entire school becomes a big ball of light, and then poof, nothing. The trio are speechless for a moment and don't dare to look at the school, and when they finally do, there's just no one there. As a precaution, Chisato uses her weird powers to fill up the space, and she doesn't feel any ghost presence either. After they finished the ritual, they all went home, and while successful, Yukari seemed on edge. Chisato says that she understands, but she really doesn't. The next day, they went to the place where the portal was and confirmed that it was closed. Chisato was on edge for days, keeping an eye out for ghosts and ears out for rumors, fearing that the incantation didn't quite fully work. She wonders how the spirits experienced our world, and if being a spirit is just another state of being like we've seen before. Since that night, Yukari has brooded more than usual, and Chisato wonders what happened when they were separated that night. Chisato fears that they are now somehow touched by the spirit world and can never quite fully escape it.